I just spent the last 81 hours rewatching the entirety of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic to answer the show's oldest question. Just how old are the main six? The main six, as one might inquire by the name, are the six main characters of the show. And for the past 15 years that the show has been out, there have been multiple attempts to figure out their ages, but no one has ever managed to get anything more than a rough estimate that, honestly, we all kind of figured. But that all changes today, my friends, because after going through every single episode of the series, we can finally answer the age-old question, just how old are the main six? But where do we start? Well, obviously, you'd think that the best way to figure this out would be to go directly to the person responsible for the creation of these characters in the first place, Lauren Faust. And conveniently, she already addressed this question a while back on Twitter, or X, or Twix. Unfortunately, though, she really isn't much help here. Quote, "I've always refrained from defining the ponies' ages because they are not human. Twilight has a maturity level of about 15, but being a horse who are geriatric around 30, maybe she's only 3. Maybe. I never decided how pony aging works." Okay, so that didn't work. We now have narrowed down Twilight's age to maybe being anywhere between 3 and 30. That's not gonna cut it for this video. We need to get more specific. But if even the show's creator doesn't know how old they are, then how can we possibly get an answer? I'll tell you how, with math! Hey, I promise, this'll be worth it.
Hey, that's what my teacher said about those Pythagorean theorems I never use.
Hey, you, shut up guy who makes a very good point. The first step in figuring out their ages is to learn just how much time has passed in the show. How many years have gone by from episode 1 all the way to the ending of the end in season 9? How do we do this? It's rather simple, actually. We just need to count how many times the seasons change, as well as any special events or holidays that occur, such as Nightmare Night and the Summer Sun Celebration. And on the topic of the Summer Sun Celebration, this right here is an annual event marking the beginning of summer and will be a key component in figuring out their ages, especially seeing as how the series opens with the Summer Sun Celebration. Now, here's where things get a little confusing. We stay in summer all the way up until episode 11, where we skip fall and go straight into winter wrap-up, which places us at the beginning of spring. Episode 12 is Call of the Cutie, which appears to take place in the spring, but in episode 13, we jump right into fall with the running of the leaves. Then back into spring with episode 14, Suited for Success. So what just happened here in the span of a couple episodes is we have gone from summer to winter to spring to fall and back to spring. This implies that a full 2 years have passed in the span of 5 episodes. Or at least that's what it looks like at first glance. Plot twist, this season only spans 1 year. How can this be the case, you wonder? Well, it turns out that the episodes in season 1 are not in chronological order. This has been a theory for a while now, but it turns out that Lauren Faust herself actually confirmed this in, of all the obscure places, a DeviantArt comment from 2011. But first, I need to ask you a very important question. Do you have an identity? Do you want to protect said identity, but are overwhelmed by multiple options, all seeming to offer different things at various prices? Why does this feel like a segue? Oh, this isn't a segue, but this is. This video is sponsored by Aura! Aura is your one-stop shop for all your identity protection needs. It was recently announced by National Public Data that a breach of over 2.9 billion background checks with social security numbers were released into the dark web. Know who could check if your number was one of them? Aura! Aura doesn't just protect your social security number though. They also protect your finances, your phone numbers, your addresses, and so much more. Aura even contacts data brokers to have your personal information deleted in order to prevent spam messages. Aura also has an antivirus program that will scan your computer for malware and help you delete it before it becomes a problem. Aura actually caught a threat on my computer that my other 3 antivirus programs didn't. And that isn't even the last of it. Aura offers so much more. They also have a VPN and up to $5 million in identity theft insurance. You no longer need 12 different services to protect your identity. All you need is Aura. Still unsure? Well, you can try it for yourself by visiting aura.com/starstrike or by following the link in the description to get your first 2 weeks of Aura for free. Thanks to Aura for sponsoring this video. So, in the DeviantArt comment that Lauren Faust made, she stated, quote, "The episodes are currently airing in production order. I really have no excuse for what people may consider to be a confusing timeline, except that we're making these episodes pretty darn fast. And we're not about to throw out a good premise and replace it with a meh one because it may seem out of order. It may make more sense for everyone to imagine episodes like Fall Weather Friends in reality happened before Winter Wrap-Up. The logic on our end was that we needed to inform the audience of the world dynamics, that the ponies could control the weather early in the season. If we didn't have a more solid explanation in Winter Wrap-Up first, Fall Weather Friends may have been more confusing, or we would have had to waste a lot of time in Fall Weather Friends explaining all that stuff." Ah, thank you, Lauren! I shall now cling to your every word, and what you have said over a decade ago will now be used as evidence to support a theory in a YouTube video about colorful cartoon horses learning about friendship that at the end of the day will add nothing to society. Time well spent for us all. So with that, we now know for certain that a single year passes in Season 1. We end this season with the episode The Grand Galloping Gala and work our way over to Season 2 where I noticed something a bit odd. While looking for a change in the seasons, the first episode that seems to bring us out of summer is Luna Eclipsed. Now, I actually had a lot of back and forth with myself while looking at this episode. At first, I thought it took place during the fall, the same way Halloween does. But then I took a look around and I noticed that all the trees were still green. And so I thought, hey, maybe Nightmare Night actually takes place in the summer. But then I was fairly certain I remembered Fluttershy's cottage having brown leaves on it. So I skipped forward to Season 5 to the episode The Scaremaster, where, lo and behold, it's clearly fall. So all of this to say, fall is coming late in the world for some reason, despite the fact that the seasons are changed manually. Clearly, some pony isn't doing her job, Twilight! Anyway, after fall, the next 6 episodes seem to be during Sprummer, which brings us up to 2 years. We then jump to episode 11 of the season, which is Heartswarming Eve, after which we are back to Sprummer for the rest of the season. And I already hear you asking, Star, what is this Sprummer you speak of? Well, rather than saying the phrase spring or summer whenever it's unclear as to what the seasons are, because trust me, it comes up a lot, I've decided to just combine them into one new word. Sprummer! It's like the peanut butter and jelly in the seasons, the mac and the cheese, the S and the cargo, the Stanley and his bucket. Anyway, let's move on to Season 3, Episode 6, Sleepless in Ponyville. Now, this episode doesn't have a change in the seasons, but it does mark the first annual camping trip that these 6 go on. Keyword being annual. Keep this in mind as this line makes absolutely no sense and will cause us a massive headache later. There are no other significant moments in Season 3 to account for, so we transition into Season 4. Congratulations, Twilight! You're now a princess. You now have wings and your home will be violently destroyed, leaving millions of ponies in tears and pain for all eternity as your lovely home is replaced with this abomination of a toy sale. Hope you like crystals! Season 4 opens up with the Summer Sun Celebration, which places us at exactly 3 years since the very first episode. We then go through the entirety of Season 4 with 0 changes in the time of year. There is, however, the episode Bats, which gives us sort of a Halloween feel, but other than that sort of vibe, there's nothing to indicate that this is actually taking place during the fall or Nightmare Night. The next time the seasons change is in Season 5, Episode 5, Tanks for the Memories, where it is now winter. And just give me a few minutes. I need to go cry. Like a man!
Yeah! 2 very boring minutes later.
Okay, I'm good. We then transition into Sprummer, giving us 4 years so far. We then fast forward to episode 20 of this season, where we get the episode Hearthbreakers. Yet another episode taking place during the winter. After this, we actually skip Sprummer and go right into fall with the very next episode, The Scaremaster. Next up is episode 23, The Hooffields and McColts, which takes place during the Sprummer, bringing us up 2 years and giving us a current total of 6. It then stays this way into season 6 up until episode 8, A Hearthwarming Tale. We then have Sprummer for the rest of of season 6, bringing our total to 7 years. We then jump into season 7, where I actually need to address a misconception real quick. In episode 11, Not Asking for Trouble, some people have thought that this was actually going on during the same time as Hearthswarming, because we learned from Yona in the episode Hearthswarming Club that the Yaks celebrate their holiday, Yxlurbertfest, at the same time of the year the ponies celebrate Hearthswarming. But this is actually incorrect. The Yaks do not celebrate this holiday during the winter, but rather during the Sprummer. The holiday that the Yaks celebrate during the winter is called Snildarfest.
It's called Snildarfest.
The extra piece of evidence that The extra piece of evidence that we have that Yxlurbertfest takes place during the Sprummer is that we have about 20 seconds of screen time where we see the landscape of Ponyville, and it is very clearly not winter. Now, given that 99% of this episode takes place in a snowy location, and the fact that the Yak holidays have such hard-to-remember names that are so similar to each other, I honestly do not blame anyone for thinking that these were the same holiday. Anyway, we then move on to episode 16 of season 7, Campfire Tales. Now, remember how I mentioned earlier that little camping trip that Applejack and Rainbow Dash and Rarity and the CNC go on was stated to be annual? Well, for some reason, they are only just now going on that camping trip. And we know that they have not done any other camping trips over the years because they specifically referred to that first camping trip we see them take as the last time they went on a camping trip together.
We aren't gonna tell scary stories like our last camping trip, are we?
Do you not know what the word annual means? Because it definitely doesn't mean once every half decade. So now we are at the point where it seems as though the characters are implying that only 1 year has passed since the events of the last campout, which, as I stated, supposedly happened 5 years ago. Why, it's almost as if the writers weren't concerned about being super duper careful with their wording throughout the series because they didn't expect anyone to be crazy enough to come through literally every single episode of this show to figure out the ages of colorful talking horses learning about friendship. What are you doing with your life? Okay, so now the question is, which is it? 1 year or 5 years? Personally, I think that the most likely scenario here, which does maintain continuity, is that they have only just now decided to make their camping trips annual. That's why they haven't been going on them the past several years. They never actually mentioned during the first campout that they were going to be doing this every year. So I don't think it's too much of a stretch. So all of this massive headache, just to say, ignore these camping trips. They do not happen a year apart from each other, and ignore the episode Not Asking for Trouble, as neither of them mean anything. Anyway, the rest of season 7 remains in the Sprummer. We then move on to season 8 and jump ahead to episode 15, The Hearthswarming Club, placing us in winter. Afterwards, we go back into Sprummer, and it stays this way all throughout the rest of season 8, giving us 8 years. And now we must put scrolling through the episodes on pause because this is where the best gift ever comes in. It's not actually in the list of episodes as it was a 44-minute special releasing right after season 8 ended, changing the time of year to winter. We now enter the final season of the show, where it turns to spring and remains that way up until episode 17, The Summer Sun Setback, taking place on the first day of summer, giving us an exact total of 9 years. From that point on, the season remains in the summer all throughout to the final episode, meaning that this show is at most a couple of months over 9 years and at least a couple of weeks. Woo! Yeah! 222 episodes later, we finally have a base timeline for the show that will allow us to calculate their ages. But just in case you didn't hear me the first time, 222 episodes. And that's not even counting The Best Gift Ever, the movie, or Rainbow Road Trip. Yeah, I accounted for Rainbow Road Trip. You know, that hour-long special that had practically no advertising and yet was for some reason animated in the same style as the movie and was so forgettable that you probably haven't even thought about it in years? I went through that movie too, and it didn't even offer any new information. So as you can clearly tell after 2 years of this video being in the works, yes, I have been working on this theory for 2 whole years. This theory is getting to be a little long, and I unfortunately can't fit all of the information into a single video. Believe me, I tried. So I will actually be posting the second half of this theory next week with a final calculation, giving you guys what is not a rough estimate as to how old the main 6 are, not a wild guess, but exact numbers for each and every one of them. Oh, also, this is the most work I've ever put into a single theory, so if you wouldn't mind dropping a like on the video, I would really appreciate it. Legitimately, every like helps out a ton. Until next time, I'm curious, just how old do you think the main six are? Go ahead and leave your guesses in the comments, and I will see you all next time.